Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Scorpius School of Slamcraft. Today we're talking about map juicing. Yep, that's a thing for anybody who doesn't know. The same way that you're juicing up your gear and your weapons and your rings and all that, you can actually juice up your maps for the end game, and things can become a little bit complicated, especially if you're new to the game. Map juicing is actually very important because if you don't do it right, or you don't know what you're doing, or at least the basics of juicing your maps, you're gonna have a very hard time finding good currency or good items on the ground. Based on the previous episode of Slamcraft where we explained how to easily craft some decent gear, you guys really liked that episode and I appreciate all the support. I read and answered every single comment, and once again, that's what I'm doing based on your feedback. We're taking our time. So yeah, I hope this episode helps you out and you understand everything. If you don't and you have some questions, leave them down below or join me over on the live at twitch.tv/scorpius_ent. Enjoy. Right, so guys, last season we actually made another video about juicing your maps, and since that's not relevant anymore because they changed the way the maps are, you can no longer have positive mods in here. It's only going to be negative, and the only thing that we care about are the percentages all the way up here, which are going to be the positive. So because of that, there's new ways that we want to juice up our maps, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it and try and explain everything slowly. Like all of this currency that you see in my inventory, I just prepared it so we can have everything and not look for stuff. I know a lot of people want this information for crafting, and Endgame is part of it. Actually, Endgame is the biggest part of it. That's how you're going to be able to get your loot, get some divines on the ground and things like that. All of this currency here is just for me to use it. It doesn't mean that you need to use every single one of these. If you guys are on a budget, there's a couple of things that you're going to be skipping because they're pretty expensive at the time of this recording at least. But yeah, anyway, let's just explain it. As I said, I'm talking about endgame tier 15 maps. You don't need to do this below tier 15 if you're not to the point where you can do the tier 15s. Tier 15s, you can either find them on the ground and build yourself some sustainability through the Atlas tree. I do like to juice up my maps more than going for things like essences and wisps, but I'm juicing my maps fully so I can be able to try and get that double effect of the quantity and rarity and try and get some decent loot out of it. Also, you can use the reforging bench. If Doriani has tier 14 maps, which he doesn't because I bought everything, you can recombine 3 tier 14s into 1 tier 15. If you have white tier 15s, what you want to do is you want to Orb of Alchemy them instead of hitting them with multiple other currencies. So Orb of Alchemy, holding down shift and hit. The goal here, the first part of juicing your maps, is to get all of these maps to have one right here. Revives available, which also means you're gonna have 5 mods. As you can see, there's 4 now. If I hit it once more, it's gonna go 1 revive is available and it's gonna have 5 mods. If you have 6, that's gonna be 0. Okay, let's do that next. So do we need Orb of Augmentation? We need to hit all of these. There we go. Then we want to regal them. There it is. I want to make sure that you guys can see everything that we're doing here. And lastly, we want to exalt them all until they have 5 mods. There you go. This is 5 mods. There's 1 revive available right there. This is going to need 2 exalts, etc., right? So let me just do this real quick. And there you go. Okay, we don't need these. We're returning these back. We don't need the exalted anymore. We're returning that back. So now we have these that we're going to be using now. So let me explain what we're trying to do. We want 5 mods because if you hit it with a 6th one, what we're going to do in a little bit is actually hit it with a preserved vertebrae. This, just like we did in the previous crafting video that I released, we're hitting them with vertebrae because this is going to desecrate them and it's going to give us a desecrated mod, one of the new ones. And obviously, like we did on the previous one, we have a list here in PoE2DB that tells you what you might get based on if it's going to hit prefix or suffix. And each one is going to give you either something positive plus something else positive, something like, for example, 50 to 100% increased experience. And it's also going to give you map item drop chance 20%. Or it's going to give give you something negative and something positive. Something like, for example, rare monsters in an area eat the souls and they become a lot stronger, but because of that, you're gonna get a drop chance of plus some kind of percentage, right? Vertebrae is gonna give it a 6th mod. There is absolutely no reason to add a 6th mod yourself with Exalted, because that way you just spend an additional Exalted, which is your 6th mod is going to be replaced by the vertebrae, so there's no reason to use that there. The part where it becomes a little bit pricey, and you guys can skip this part, by the way, if you don't have the funds. And right now, let me just check the price, because we did have a few issues here and there because of the prices in the last video. I want to make sure that people see what's happening here. Chaotic Rarity, that's the one that we're using. And it is currently at 21 Exalted Orbs. This is a really, really good item, by the way, and it's definitely worth if you have the extra currency. If you don't worry about it. Juice up the maps with all the other ways that I'm going to show you if you can, and you're going to see that you're going to start increasing your loot in your maps, guys. So what Omen of Chaotic Rarity does, it will replace all of the modifiers on the Waystone. That's why we didn't care about the modifiers that we were slapping before, with modifiers that grant you item rarity. Item rarity and quantity on your maps is going to be the most important thing for you guys to get some loot, okay? So if we look at all of these maps, for example, this one has item rarity 64%, at least it's there. Then we have this one has no rarity. This one has only 16%. This one has 48%, etc., etc. So if you have maps that don't have rarity, or they have insanely low rarity, like the 16%, then what we're going to do is we're going to use Omen of Chaotic Rarity. We're going to trigger it like this in our inventory and then hit those maps with Chaos Orbs. So for example, this one already has 64%. I'm not going to waste 21 or 20 Exalted on this one that already has some. This one has nothing. So let's hit that one. And boom, it replaced everything. And now it has 95% item rarity. There, so now these were hit with the Chaotic Omen. And now they have a lot of rarity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split these, the ones that have the rarity, and I'm gonna put in the empty. I've got the empty one here, the ones that are a little bit lower, and I'm gonna put this one here. And that's basically, I organized all of the maps here that we hit with the Omen that have very, very high item rarity, as you can see. And the last one here, we only have 63%, but we're gonna keep it. So now that we're done with the chaos and hitting them with the Omen, comes the part where we put the new Desecrated mod. So we just hit all 20 of these. There you go. This is going to add a 6th modifier on it. And there you go. Our next step is going to the Well of Souls, so we can unveil actually what we are getting on those maps. And that's where that website that we saw before is going to come in handy. So if we just click on here and just start adding them there, and we're going to start getting like multiple different options. Now, where and how do you know which ones are good? You need to come over here, or you need to memorize the good ones, right? So it has a chance of giving us a prefix or a suffix. And what we're looking for here to try and simplify it for you guys is to try and get as much rarity as we possibly can. So for example, 25% increased rarity is good here. So we would like to have the 2 to 3 additional pits. Then there's pack size. We've got additional rare monsters, might be really good as well. But rarity is the majority of the things that we actually look for here. So for example, Mark for Death after killing a rare is going to be 40% rarity. This is pretty good, but that's a suffix as well. We've got number of rare monsters, which is really decent as well, 50%. Very, very good number there. There is one modifier, by the way, and I sold a map yesterday for 2 divine, and another one this morning for 1 divine, depending on the roll that you're going to get, which is overrun by abyssals. So abyssals have 14 to 18 additional pits, and area is overrun by abyssal. If you get to that point and you unveil that mod, it sells for a divine, depending on which number you're going to get. I got the 17 additional pits, and I sold it for 2 divine. And then this morning, I got 14 additional pits and sold for 1 divine. So going back to the game here, let's see what we're getting. So we're getting the Union, and this one actually gives us 50% increased rares, so I'm going to get that one. 99% item rarity, and we've got 50% rare monsters. In addition, this is something that we didn't have before. So now I'm going to start cruising through every single one of them and see what we actually get. Grasping Vine, by the way, if we go and check it out, it doesn't have any negative effect. There it is. It just increases 22% increased pack size, and the downside is not that big of a deal. The second option here, I don't really like it, and the first one is probably one of the best that you can get, but it's also one of the most dangerous ones, because as a melee, I'm dashing through everything and I'm marked for death. That's going to increase the damage that I take by 50%, 40% increased rarity of items found, and 10% increased pack size, which is really, really massive, which is the best one. If you guys can handle that one, then that's the best option. We've got Abysses have 18 additional pits. Area is overrun by the Abyssals. We're 100,000% getting this one, even though this is the second best option that you can go for. If you get this without getting the big numbers of the additional pits, always go for the additional pits. But because we got the big modifier and it's actually rolling pretty high, what's 18 here? Let me see. Yeah, it's actually the highest one. We are 100% going for this one. But yeah, this is the mod that I told you about that actually sells for a lot. I don't know by the time of this recording how much is going to drop. As I said, it's usually 1 to 2 divine depending on the roll. It might drop a little bit less because now Exalted is like 160 for 1 divine, and yesterday it was like 99 for 1 divine. It's crazy stuff. Anyway, this is the good one, so I'm going to separate that and I'm going to continue with my maps. Okay, so now that you've finished with unveiling everything, comes the time where you're actually juicing the maps even more. There are 2 more steps here. And the first step is putting in your distilled emotions. They used to be called distilled emotions. Now they're called liquid emotions. And there's different ones. There's eerie, guilt, greed, etc., etc. But all of these are adding extra things on your maps. When I say things, by the way, I mean effects. For example, if I add my map right here and I put this specific paranoia one, and even though it doesn't show it here, I think it's bugged, it will show on your map. So you're going to see it right here. It increased my rare monsters by a ton. So that's what paranoia does. So we could do one more together so you can see. This map, for example, if you look at the very top right here, it says plus 30% on rare monsters. And if I add 3 paranoias, boom, it went to 75%. That's what paranoia does. So yeah, every single liquid emotion adds a different thing to the map. For example, the guilt is gonna add increased pack size, and this is really good if you guys are farming for experience. I'm gonna leave this out so I don't forget to talk about the experience. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna distill all of my maps with paranoia. The more paranoias you add here, the harder the map is gonna become. So all of these extra steps is gonna make the map a little bit harder. So just know that, okay? I'm gonna add all of the paranoias here, get all of the rares that we need, juice them up as much as we can. And let's say these are all of my maps that I just juiced up, right? So all of these have been hit with literally everything. And as I said, you guys can skip any of these steps if you want to. So yeah, exactly. Now it's time to actually gamble. So far, we know what we were doing. There was a little bit RNG here and there, but it was intentional what we were doing. Now it's time to RNG this. And if we're lucky with Val Orb, the point that we're valing this, you guys can skip this if you want, if you don't want to. But Val Orb can literally scuff the entire map and everything you've done with it so far. It can replace your mods. It can replace some of the implicits up here. It could downgrade it from 15 to 14. Or it can add more modifiers, making it even harder and stronger. Or the one that we're looking for is actually evolving the map to tier 16 instead of tier 15. So now I'm going to hold down shift and I'm going to pray and hit every single map. I saw 116. Okay, there you go. So we're lucky that we didn't get a downgrade to tier 14. And we actually go to tier 16. Did this reserve? Yes, it did. 45 rare monsters, 135 item rarity. This is going to be a very, very juicy map. This, I'm going to save this for whenever I get maps that have +1 from irradiated or boss maps and +1 from the fractured, cleansed, or corrupted maps as well. So if I have a +1/+1 and I add this, this is going to be a tier 18 map, which is going to be insane for loot drops. Everything else here has been either added a modifier or removed a modifier. So far, I see that this got scuffed. The item rarity is 59% now. Rare monsters are 45. It gave me something else here than before. Not bad. All of these, almost the majority of them, this was lowered as well. The item rarity, this was significantly lowered. The majority of them were pretty good. So I was pretty lucky with this session. And that's basically it with map juicing. Now, the final part, which is very, very important to know, because if you don't do this right, there is literally no point in juicing your maps. So whenever you guys are cruising through and you're traveling through your map, what you need to do basically is to try and find as many towers that overlap. Like this one, for example. There are 2 towers here that overlap. So having 2 towers, 3 towers, or some very rare cases, I've seen like 4 towers. This is where you want to juice up both of these towers, or all 3 of them if you find. I don't think I have a 3 tower. Actually, yeah, here you go. These 2 overlap, and then this one is going to overlap with these. So this is like a 3 tower setup. So the maps that overlap between all 3 towers are going to be juiced up times 3, right? So we 100%. Whenever you get yourself a tower, I think I have one blue there. Whenever you path to a tower, this is a bad one. That's why I didn't do anything. I'm waiting to see if there's going to be anything here in the fog. But whenever you travel to a tower, before you do the tower, make sure that you put 6 modded map here and make it something easy so you don't struggle with the tower, but make it 6 mods so you can be able to unlock all 3, so you can be able to put 3 tablets in there. So imagine if you do that with a 3 tower setup, that's going to be 9 tablets that are going to be juicing up all of your maps around. I'm focusing on 3 tablets: Irradiated, Breach, and Rituals. The first way that you could do this is going for full quantity of items. This is what I have here. As you can see, quantity can roll on any of the tablets from 3 to 7%. You want to have it as high as possible. 6 or 7 would be ideal, especially for more tower layouts and more tower setups if they cross over. I have got a lot of them, and I think the majority of these are actually white, and I can slap them. And I've seen a lot of success with hitting them with either greater or perfect if you have extra perfect, for example. But greater is going to do just fine. Now, the second tech that you could do is going, instead of a quantity of items, you can go for experience. So you can see that experience could also roll 5 to 10% on all of the maps. Once again, I'm going to do Irradiated, Breach, and Ritual, because Ritual has a ton of monsters, Breach has a ton of monsters. The more monsters we fight with experience gained, the more experience we're going to get, which is where the distilled liquid guild comes in play. Because this one, if we go and take a random map that we have here, let's say this one, and we hit it with guild, you're going to see that it gives you even more pack size. And pack size is what you care about for experience if you're running the experience tech. So now you guys know how to juice up your maps. Once again, you can skip whatever step you don't need or you cannot afford. And you also know what kind of towers to look for and what kind of tablets to slap on. The last part that I wanted to say, once again, this is a little bit pricey. I'm going to price check all of these now so you can see. So Visions of Paradise, if we click on that and we do Visions of Paradise tablet and we search on it, you're going to see that it's currently at 195 exalted orbs, which is very, very pricey. And what this does, it adds Irradiated to as many maps as you can get on this tablet. Irradiated gives us the +1, which is really good. But what it actually does, and the reason why it's so expensive, is if you complete an Irradiated map, it doesn't actually close the map. So for example, this one has Irradiated on, as you can see. And if it was hit with that tablet, with the Visions of Paradise, when I complete this map, I'm going to be able to do it again. For example, if this was my 3 tower setup right here, can you guys see the 3rd tower? You can't because of my face. So there's tower 1, tower 2, and tower 3. What I would actually do whenever I path to these is see which tower hits the most maps first, and I'm going to path to this tower, okay? When I path to it, what I'm going to add here is I'm going to add a full quantity Irradiated with as many maps as I possibly can, so I can hit as many maps with Irradiated as possible. Then I'm going to add a Breach with quantity, and I'm going to add a Ritual with quantity on it as well. So that's gonna hit the max quantity that I can from one tower and as many irradiated as I possibly can. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and path to as few maps as I possibly can so I don't scuff them before I juice them with the other two towers, so you can come from a different direction to the second one. Let's say we already juiced this one. I'm gonna go to the second tower and do the exact same thing. Irradiated, breach, ritual, maximum quantity of items. And then is where the good stuff comes in. The third tower, I'm gonna use a breach, a ritual, and the Visions of Paradise, which means that every single map that it hits with irradiated will be able to be done twice. Your maps are going to be super juiced up with quantity of items, and it's going to be an insane run, and I guarantee you guys are going to get a ton of currency dropping from these maps. Now, there is also something else to consider, which is the pathing that I said before, that we need to be smart about our pathing. One way that you can go from tower to tower is going also for the second unique, which this is a lot cheaper, the Grand Project, which gives you access to any map that you want. This is really good for a lot of different things that you can do. One thing is if you want to quickly discover the fog, you could just slap it on a tower that doesn't have a good setup, and you could just go to the furthest away so you can discover the fog a lot easier. You can also do it in one of your towers. However, you're going to sacrifice a normal tablet with a quantity, but that's going to give you access to go from one tower to another. What I would do is I could put the Grand Project in here and immediately do this tower without taking away any of the maps that I want to juice. But if you cannot afford any of these, or you don't think the Grand Project is worth sacrificing one of the better tablets, then what you could do is make sure that you prepare some maps, or have some maps that are not juiced up and they're very, very easy to do. Usually what I personally do is I use the maps that failed before, that I corrupted, and they either got scuffed or they're not really good to run in a good tower setup. I don't use my magic normal ones because these can be converted to really good maps, but anything that has been corrupted, I think this one for example has been corrupted and it's pretty bad, 22 rarity. I'm not going to run this in a good tower, so I'm going to use this to path. But if you don't have those options, then as I said, you can use the delirium, because these have been already scuffed with the distilled emotions that are not the ones that we actually want, so you can use these ones to path. That's basically it for the map juicing. It's a lot of information, I know, that's why I wanted to make sure that I explain it to all of you, and hopefully it becomes a little bit clearer now as to what you could do. Well, there it is. Hopefully that covered everything that you guys needed to know and it helped you out. Once again, if you have any questions, leave them down below or join us over on the live at twitch.tv/scorpius_ent. If you enjoy these episodes, please make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and let me know if you like these longer and mansplaining kind of videos. But yeah, I appreciate you all. Thank you very much once again, and I'm gonna see you on the next one. Peace.